Hi, this is Kevin with River City Construction. This is your home information podcast. And today we're going to talk about something that is very, very controversial. We're going to talk about permitting. What does permitting mean? What does the permitting process look like? What can you expect once your contractor tells you we're working on the permits, and what it looks like on the back end of pulling a permit? Each city is going to be very different for permitting, and I believe that understanding this process is going to give you a little bit of peace of mind that your contractor is not just sitting around, waiting for that permit to get approved, but actually is doing their due diligence to make sure that your home is safe and that you can actually have a pretty good process throughout the whole remodeling. So I want to talk a little bit about what is a permit. A permit is just a legal approval from the city or your town. It's just pretty much a piece of paper that we stick into the front of your door, and the city needs to know that there is a construction that is pretty much a construction site that needs to be respected and needs to be treated like a construction site. What that means for you as a homeowner, whenever you have a permit in your home, means that your contractor has done everything possible to make sure that it's a legal site, that is a safe site, because ultimately, to pull a permit is because you want to make sure that everything is safe. Everything that you're doing in your home is safe. What does a permit actually do? It actually protects you as a homeowner. It protects the contractor, and it protects the future and the value of your home. So if you're out there and thinking, hey, does the permit really make a difference, in the value of my home? Actually, it really does. My wife is a realtor, and as she begins to sell and buy homes, one of the questions is, has this work been permitted? And if the house has been permitted, it means that it's been done to a legal standard, up to code. When do you actually need a permit in Boston or in Massachusetts? You need a permit whenever you go into the studs, or whenever you go into what we call the rough stage of the house. So that means if you see the rough plywood, if you see the 2x4s or the 2x6s, that's when you need a permit. You don't need a permit technically to do a floor. You don't need a permit to do painting around your house, to do minor carpentry. You don't need a permit for that. But whenever you're demoing something, it needs to be tested. You have to make sure that there's no asbestos, there's no lead. You have to make sure that you have a lead certified contractor that comes out there, and to make sure that you're actually safe. So whenever, rule of thumb, if you see the bare bones of your home, you need a permit. So structural changes, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, additions to your home, kitchens, bathroom, these all need a permit. Who pulls a permit? So this can become a little tricky, right? So if you have a single home or single family home and you actually live in that single family home, you are allowed to pull your own permit. If you have a 2-family home and you live in one of those units, you are allowed to pull your permits. Do I, as a contractor, recommend the homeowners to pull a permit? I don't recommend that. And the reason why is because there's so many paperwork and liability that a contractor needs to assume just in case anything goes wrong. Remember, it's all about safety. It's all about making sure that your home doesn't end up in the news burnt down. Remember that. Make sure that your home is safe. So, do I recommend the homeowners to pull a permit? I don't recommend a homeowner to pull a permit. Actually, if you pull your own permit, you're pretty much signing all the waiver and all the liability onto you. And I don't think you want that. You want your contractor to take that liability, because he will actually make sure that everything is done legal, everything is done the right way, everything is done proper as codes allow. So a big red flag that I would say is, if the contractor avoids pulling a permit, this could be a really red flag. Most contractors or licensed contractors, we need to be able to pull a permit, right? Because it's part of who we are and what we do. How long does a permitting process take in Boston and surrounding areas? So the permitting process can look different from every city. We work a lot in Somerville, we work a lot in Cambridge, we work a lot in Medford, in Winchester, in Boston. We work around every city in the greater Boston area, and each city, believe it or not, it has its own own little process to the permitting. Actually, Somerville just came out with a 10-hour OSHA course that the contractor needs to have a certification for a 10-hour OSHA. So, hey, contractors, be on the lookout because you do need that 10-hour OSHA course to be able to pull a permit in Somerville. So, the city that we find the most accessible to get a permit is Boston. You kind of go in. If it's just a bathroom remodel, you submit all your paperwork. You can actually do it at the city hall. Submit, counter 1, then you go into counter 2. If it's, has to do something with zoning. If not, once you submit all your paperwork, it will go into plan review. Once it's been approved, you go into, pick up your permit. Somerville is a little bit more complex. Somerville, you submit everything online, and you wait until they give you a response. Usually they're pretty quick at responding. They'll ask for additional documentation, and based on that documentation, you submit it back. Once you apply for a permit, make sure that you're attentive to that email, or make sure that you tell your contractor, hey, be attentive to the email, because this city can become a little bit, they can push it down the pipeline. So make sure that you're attentive to that email, because they will be asking for additional paperwork. Cambridge, same thing. You go, apply online. CityServe, they have a phenomenal system to just go in, apply, pay the fees, and get your permit. How long does a permit take to get approved? Each permit is very different. It depends on the scope of the work. It will depend on what do you need to pull a permit. Just rule of thumb, if the building is 3-family or more, that is considered a commercial building. After it crosses that threshold of 3-family, they call it a commercial building. So that permit can take a little bit longer. Usually the city halls will tell us that they have up to 30 days to do anything on that permit, to act on the permit. And what that means is they have 30 days to review it. So from the day that you apply and you've submitted all your documents, they have 30 days to review that permit. If they need any additional information, they will send you an email. So that, like I said, be attentive to that email, because once they submit, or once you submit and they send you we need this document, this other document, that can delay the approval. So what I would say is, rule of thumb, 30 days to get your permit approved, depending on the due diligence that your contractor and how able is he to provide all of those documents to them. What causes delays? Pretty much not submitting paperwork on time. To be honest, sometimes insurances don't get to us on time, and they don't give us those insurance documentations that the city needs. And that's why it's very important to actually have, a contractor do the permit for you, because we actually have to submit insurances, workers' compensation. We have to submit proof of liability. We have inspections and final sign-off. What do you expect? What do inspections or inspectors look for? So inspectors will look for safety and making sure that everything is done to code. There's a couple of inspections, actually. So whenever you're pulling a permit for a bathroom, there is a rough inspection. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. There's a plumbing inspection, electrical inspection, rough inspection that we call the framing inspection. Make sure that there's fire blocking and all that good stuff, to make sure that if in case of a fire, the fire doesn't spread all around the house. So there's fire blocking inspection, and then there's insulation inspection. There's some cities that have what we call the drywall inspection. I think Somerville is one of those cities that had drywall inspections to make sure that the screws are actually placed in the proper way. But I don't know if they're still doing that. I haven't had a drywall inspection in a while in Somerville, so it's pretty good with that. So there's, those inspections to be passed, and pretty much what they look for is they look for code violations or anything that can jeopardize your home in the future. Common mistakes homeowners make when starting work. Well, a lot of homeowners make the mistake of starting a job or a project without a permit. I don't recommend that, because in reality, the permit is there for you, to protect you and to protect us as contractors, right? To make sure that we have everything in line, to make sure that we are keeping up to date with our classes, keeping up to date with our insurances, keeping up to date with so many paperwork that the city requires for us to keep up to date with, and you don't have to worry about that homeowner because the city already has that. A lot of cities actually will keep the permit card, and as we're transitioning to the digital era, all the cities have everything digital, and you can actually just go make an application or request that permit. Another mistake that homeowners make is hiring an unlicensed contractor. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great contractors out there that are not licensed because they really can't get licensed, like Pancho, Pablo, Juan, whatever. They're great builders. They do everything by code, but unfortunately they can't get a license, right? So make sure that you're hiring a licensed contractor just to be on the safe side, just to make sure that you're protecting your most valuable asset, that is your home. And a lot of homeowners, they don't understand the timeline, of the permitting process or the construction process. So it is our job as contractors to make sure that we're giving you all the information that you need. So your project, so number one, that you can feel safe. Number two, that you can feel comfortable. Number three, that you can feel like this project is actually yours, right? So understanding the timeline is crucial to any remodeling project, because then you're not asking questions or being left out, like when is this happening, or when is it starting, or when is it whatever. So you have to make sure that you understand your timeline. So I understand that the permitting process can be a headache, but whenever you are doing it right, or the process, it becomes a little easier to understand, and it protects your home and your investment. Remember, this is River City Construction with education, so you can learn, live better, and love your home. See you in the next one.